Welcome back to Catalyst Guru, Episode 6, where we dive deep into the psychology of guilt and fear and saying no. If guilt and fear were Olympic sports, most of us would be gold medalists. They're the tag team champions of the workplace, whispering things like, if you say no, they'll hate you, or you're being selfish. Guilt and fear don't just complicate decision-making, they practically paralyze it. Saying no is hard enough, but when guilt and fear join the conversation, it feels impossible. Let's dig into why these emotions hit so hard and, more importantly, how to kick them off your mental board of directors. Why guilt is so powerful. Guilt is sneaky. It doesn't just knock on the door. It invites itself in, makes coffee, and refuses to leave. At its core, guilt stems from our desire to be good people, and good people help others, right? Here's where guilt gets tricky. It doesn't care about context. It shows up whether the request is reasonable. Could you help me finish this project? Or absurd, can you organize a surprise party for my son's birthday? The voice in your head tells you, if you say no, you're letting them down. Reality check. Guilt isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you care. The trick is learning to care without overcommitting. Understanding the fear factor. Fear, on the other hand, is the louder, flashier sibling of guilt. It thrives on worst-case scenarios. What if my boss thinks I'm not a team player? What if saying no ruins my chances of getting promoted? What if they stop inviting me to lunch? Fear doesn't just make you second-guess yourself, it makes you spiral. It assumes that one no will lead to career implosion, public shaming, and exile to the office supply closet. Reality check. Fear exaggerates. One polite no won't tank your career. In fact, learning to say no effectively can actually boost your reputation by showing that you respect your time and others. Where do guilt and fear come from? To tackle guilt and fear, it helps to understand where they come from. Here are a few common culprits. 1. People-pleasing tendencies. You've been conditioned to prioritize others' needs over your own. 2. Perfectionism. You feel like you have to say yes to prove your worth. 3. Lack of boundaries. Without clear limits, guilt and fear fill the gaps. 4. Past experiences. Maybe you've faced backlash for saying no before, so you avoid it at all costs. Understanding the root of these feelings doesn't make them disappear, but it gives you a starting point for addressing them. The guilt-to-growth shift. Here's a thought experiment. What if saying no isn't selfish but smart? Every time you say yes, out of guilt, you're taking on something that might not align with your goals, priorities, or energy levels. Instead of thinking, I'm letting them down, try reframing it as, I'm creating space to excel where it matters most. Or, I'm showing respect for my own boundaries. And maybe, I'm empowering them to find another solution. Guilt thrives on emotional shortcuts. When you take a moment to reframe the situation, you cut off its power supply. Fear doesn't speak the truth. Here's the thing about fear, it's rarely logical. It operates on outdated scripts, like a bad sitcom that hasn't been canceled yet. To silence fear, you need to rewrite the script. Try this exercise. 1. Write down your fear. Example. If I say no, they'll think I'm lazy. 2. Challenge it with evidence. Example. I've completed 5 major projects on time this quarter. 1 no won't undo that. 3. Replace it with a positive affirmation. Example. I'm a reliable employee who knows my limits. Fear shrinks when you confront it with facts. Managing guilt and fear in real time is like defusing a bomb in a movie. The clock is ticking, the pressure is high, and one wrong move could spell disaster. Or at least, that's how it feels. The reality is far less dramatic. With the right tools, you can handle these emotions calmly and effectively without the need for a Hollywood soundtrack. Here are 7 secrets as to say no without guilt and fear. Exercise 1. The 3-second pause. One of the simplest strategies for managing guilt and fear is to pause. When someone makes a request, resist the urge to respond immediately. Those 3 seconds give you time to 1. Assess your emotions. Are you feeling pressured to say yes because of guilt or fear? 2. Evaluate the request. Is this something you can realistically take on without compromising your priorities? 3. Formulate a response. A thoughtful no is far more effective than a rushed yes. Think of the pause as your mental seatbelt. It keeps you from speeding into commitments you'll regret later. Exercise 2. Visualization, your new superpower. Visualization isn't just for athletes and motivational speakers. It's a powerful tool for managing guilt and fear. Here's how to use it. 1. Picture the worst-case scenario. Imagine what would actually happen if you said no. Would the world end? Would your boss fire you on the spot? Chances are, the outcome is far less catastrophic than your emotions suggest. 2. Visualize a successful no. Imagine delivering your response confidently and the other person accepting it graciously. This mental rehearsal helps build confidence and reduces anxiety. The goal is to replace fear-driven what-ifs with a clear, rational perspective. Exercise 3. The what's the trade-off. Every yes comes with a trade-off. When you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else, your time, energy, or focus. Before agreeing to a request, ask yourself, what am I giving up by saying yes? Is this trade-off worth it? For example, request, can you help me with this last-minute presentation? Trade-off, if I say yes, I'll miss the deadline for my own project. Decision, I'm sorry, I can't assist right now, but I can review it tomorrow morning. Framing decisions this way helps you prioritize without guilt. Exercise 4. Rewriting your inner dialogue. Guilt and fear often thrive on unhelpful inner narratives. If your default response is, it'll seem selfish if I say no, it's time for a rewrite. Here are some examples. Old narrative. I'm a bad coworker if I don't help. The new narrative should be, I'm a reliable team member who knows my limits. The second example. Old narrative, if I say no, they'll think I'm not committed. The new narrative should be, saying no allows me to focus on delivering quality work. Changing your inner dialogue doesn't happen overnight, but with practice, you'll find it easier to quiet those guilt-driven thoughts. Exercise 5. Grounding. Techniques for fearful moments. When fear strikes, grounding techniques can help you regain focus and stay calm. Try these simple exercises. 1. The 5-4-3-2-1 technique. Identify 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste. This shifts your attention away from fear and back to the present moment. 2. Deep breathing. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, repeat until you feel centered. 3. Anchor words. Choose a word or phrase that reminds you of your strength, like calm, confident, or boundaries. Repeat it silently as you prepare your response. These techniques are especially useful in high-pressure situations, like a surprise request from your boss or an urgent email from a client. Exercise 6. The role of empathy in overcoming guilt. One of the best ways to handle guilt is to empathize without overcommitting. Instead of saying yes to everything, show that you understand the other person's needs while being clear about your own limitations. For example, response with empathy. I can see why this is important, and I'd like to help. Unfortunately, I'm at capacity right now. Can we find another solution together? Empathy shows you care, but it doesn't mean sacrificing your well-being. Exercise 7. Being mindful of manipulation tactics. Let's talk about those tricky situations where guilt or fear isn't just internal. It's being deliberately used against you. Common manipulation tactics include flattery, you're the best at this. No one else can do it like you. Guilt trips, if you don't help, I'll have to stay late all by myself. Emergency pressure, this has to be done today. It's an emergency. When you recognize these tactics, it's easier to respond with a clear head. Remember, urgency doesn't mean obligation, and flattery doesn't mean you're required to agree. Saying no isn't about being unkind, it's about being intentional. Every time you say no out of wisdom, you're saying yes to what truly matters, your goals, your energy, and your peace. So, the next time guilt and fear crash the party, remember, you're the host. You get to decide who stays. Thanks for tuning in. If this episode resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more psychology-backed strategies, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let's normalize saying no without apology. Until next time, stay bold, stay balanced, and remember, your boundaries are your superpower.